Creativity is a form of intuitive practice. It is a intuitive practice. When you are creative, you are being intuitive. What I mean by intuitive is that you are listening, paying attention to subtle information. And the question for me is always, where's the subtle information coming from? So what I'd love to impart in this video is that when you are being creative, which is often, you are being intuitive. And so when you are being intuitive, you are making yourself available and, in a way, vulnerable to sources of information that you may not understand. And so consequently, it behooves you to be intentional and safe when engaging. So in short, the purpose, the impulse, the pedagogy of this particular video is to encourage you to do two things: to be rigorously specific in your intentions, and to take a moment and take care of yourself in anticipation of being creative or intuitive, to protect yourself. We don't realize what we are making ourselves available to when we engage our intuition, when we are creative. We don't really stop to think about what's going on. However, we all know, and you might be one of these people, who are highly creative and are spending a lot of time using their intuition, and they can be a little bit imbalanced. They can behave in a way that in other circumstances may seem unhealthy, maybe even a little crazy. And I think there's a reason for that. Being a highly creative person and a productive creative person is that likely you haven't put certain practices in place to protect yourself, to take care of yourself, sort of energetic hygiene. So just a little bit more about intuition and creativity before we get into some practices that you can employ and use in your life. So there's this, in a previous video, the tree to the forest, there's this idea that we have an individual, that we are ourselves, and that when we engage in the world, when we collaborate, when we quite specifically use intuitive storytelling, we become citizens of the forest. We are truly, this is not metaphorical, we are truly connected. That's the thing. And like in a forest, we are connected in ways that we can't necessarily see under the ground. Above the ground, it looks like a bunch of individual trees. Below the ground, we are just all entangled. So when we, send out our feelers and become intuitive and engage creatively, we are taking in subtle information from the periphery and from the soma, from our body, from our sensations. And most people just do it and document, and so be it, without really thinking about, where did that idea come from? So when we ascribe a location, often that involves a little bit of belief. Maybe we believe that it's coming from a higher power, God, angels. Maybe it's coming from the natural world, fairies, or just, the world itself is giving us information. Could be something universal, could be something extraterrestrial, could be something ancestral coming to us from our ancestors. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't specifically matter where all that information is coming from. Just that you welcome in sources that are beneficial to you, are kind to you, are supportive to your efforts. Because if you open yourself up to an idea of a benevolent source of information, then in a dual way, it also opens you up to sources that may not be in your best interest, and may actually give you what you are looking for in terms of a particular project. But say your project has a real darkness to it. You're making a story that delves into a place that is challenging or scary. You want to make sure that your project is successful without it making a sacrifice for you personally. So you hear these stories about writers and actors and other creative people having a really hard time climbing out of an experience, of a role or a project or what have you, because they got all mixed up with bits of information, impulses, and sometimes collaborate with energetic forces that are not in their best interest. Call it what you may. It may just be like mixing it up with somebody that you don't like. That's a version of what I'm talking about. You take on a little bit too much of them in your efforts individually. That particular tree in the forest, not really what I want to be, energetically aligned with. So here's where the intention comes in, and where I recommend be ultra specific on how you want to enter into this creative or intuitive activity. Write it down. Just answer the question. What is it that you want to do? Who is this for? Why are you doing it? How does it benefit an individual, a group of people? And then ultimately, how does it benefit you? And to be rigorously honest on that front. If it's about money, then write that down. I want to make money from this project. Great. Be clear. Be honest. If it's pedagogical, say it's in a classroom, and I am going to be creative with a lesson that I want to teach to these kids, great. Just be really clear about that, and also check in on yourself. I want to feel like a good teacher. Great. Mark that all down. It contains, and there's lots of videos and the mini books on the container, how important the container is. It contains the experience. So you go into the container, you do the thing, you leave. You don't carry it around with you. And that leads us to the second practice, which is the safeguards and precautions. All of this, like many of these videos, are associated with a mini book that has exercises written down. So you can follow the links and get the books. The safeguards and precautions are for you to basically, put a force at the gateway of your creative and intuitive experience. They're the bouncer out front that says, are you allowed in? And you could just, I encourage you to voice, to actually say out loud or write or what have you, only information that is going to serve my project and be kind to me. This is where prayers come in, or intentions, or whatever you want to call them. It really has to align with your picture of all that is and what you're comfortable talking about with the non-physical realm. I don't want anybody or any entity or any energy or any force participating in this creative act that is going to harm me. You could say that, and then you are much more likely to come out of this creative experience unscathed. I don't mean to scare you. It's just we have this impact when we are creative and intuitive. We're just welcoming to whatever's coming. And I'm just saying, well, maybe be a little bit more picky about who you want to collaborate with, what force, what kind of energy, what individuals. Do you just walk into a room and say, hey, I want to spend all my time with any one of you strangers that's interested in this project? No, you're more specific. You go through a process, an interview, what have you, to say like, yeah, we are aligned. I want to spend time with this person. Do the same thing with the non-physical, with eternal wisdom, with entities, with forces, with spirits, with aliens, with God, with fairies, whatever it is that you think you're collaborating with. Be really specific about what kind of energy you want to participate. because for at least a period of time, you're going to be carrying them with you. And then when you're done, you need to clean it. You need to say, we're done. Even those that you love, even those that are like family or friends, your favorite colleague, when you're done with the project, let them go. You can invite them back in. There's a lot of mosquitoes around me right now, just attracted to this kind of conversation. And then when you're finished, you leave the container, ritualize that, say we're finished. I am complete with this project and all its associated energetic forces. Snip, finished. On to the next project or no project, but you don't need to be carrying around this with you. So be safe, put in precautions, establish boundaries, make a clear intention, get in the container, do the thing, and leave. On to the next. Not only will it keep you safe, it will make you incredibly productive and efficient with your work and whatever it is that you're doing. So for specific, verses, things that you can say, incantations, prayers, whatever you want to call it, you can find those in the mini book as well as these exercises and many more written down very clear. Okay, I'm getting out of the woods. Until next time.